Hi, everybody, and welcome on into another episode of Eye on the Eagles. I'm Avila Sports Information Director Tim Hackett, joined for the first time this year by head baseball coach Matt Carpenter. Welcome to the show, Carp.
Good to be here, Tim. Thanks for having me.
We are stoked to have you, as always. Welcome to the show in this kind of new iteration of the show. We're live from Tanner's at Redbridge. Thank you to them, as always, for hosting us. It's fall, Carp. We're in October. We don't typically think about Avila baseball in October necessarily, but we are wrong to do that because this is as busy of a time of year for you guys as ever. I mean, we're not playing games that count until February, but this time of year is really important to you and your program because we've got the World Series coming up. And I'm not talking, Phillies versus Rangers or whoever it ends up being, the Avila Baseball Fall World Series coming up next week, which is a big annual event for you guys.
Absolutely. Definitely an exciting time of year. And like you said, it is a busy time of year for us as well. We got 35 new guys on our roster this year. 50-plus guys out competing for spots. We only have about 2 or 3 weeks of practice when we get back from winter break before we start playing. So, playing time is earned in the fall. So it's definitely a busy time for us, and it concludes with our Fall World Series, which is our purple team versus our gold team. We let the guys kind of draft their own teams, and they go at it for a best-of-5 series. And to kind of culminate the fall, we put we put a little something on the line for them, and it's always a good time, always something that we really look forward to. Kind of signals the end of the fall is here, and we try to finish it out with a bang.
What is on the line? You said a lot is decided. More not roster spots in terms of guys getting cut, but in terms of who might slot into your lineup, into your pitching staff. Playing time in the spring is determined partially by what happens this fall.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge when they have their exit meetings. Late in December, we'll whip out those fall stats, and those play a really big role in determining who initially gets the nod. When we start the season, that doesn't mean that that's set in stone when the season starts,
sure.
But you definitely want to be the guy starting that first game down in Texas in late January, and this is a huge part of it. And then on the lighter side of it, what's on the line is something we started last year. We have our early morning conditioning for 2 weeks before we start practice in the fall.
Everyone's favorite?
Yeah, they love it. It's the highlight of most guys' year. But the team that wins the Fall World Series gets to opt out of a day of early morning conditioning next fall. And then we also do something. Obviously our seniors aren't coming back next year. So at the end of the year when we do the senior dinner, if you're on the winning team from the Fall World Series, you get steak. And if you're on the losing team, you get a cheeseburger. So definitely something for them to play for. Some of the guys, I'm not sure, getting out of that early morning conditioning, we might have seen Landon's best effort in the Fall World Series last year for getting out of that day. But, that's so something light on the line. But on the big picture, it's really that getting the leg up on that playing time going into the spring. So,
and those games are coming up next week. Describe to us what the series is like, how it's built. You said the players basically draft their own teams. The captains will pick their own rosters with
Correct.
A little bit of mediation from the coaches where necessary. But the players build the teams, and the coaches just kind of watch the chips fall.
Yes, they did. They did their. So they selected their teams a couple days ago. And they're going to reveal that in kind of a selection show that you've been working on with us. But, they draft the guys, and then with a little bit of input from us as far as making sure that we spread those pitchers out the right way and stuff. But then really myself and the rest of the coaches are spectators or evaluators at the Fall World Series. They go out there, the stakes are there, best-of-5 series. The captains coach, they set the lineups and all that kind of stuff. So it's as close to a real game as you can get in the fall. Sure. While playing your own teammates. But I know they'll do some cool stuff too. They'll mic up some of the players and everything so that we can follow kind of what's going on. It's a good time, but it's pretty intense too. So
all of the games coming up next week at Johnson County 3-2 nearby here in Lenexa. How is the series itself built? Is it a best-of-7 like the Major League Baseball World Series, or how does it work?
It's a best-of-5.
Okay.
And so we will do games 1, 2, and 3 on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday out at Johnson County 3-2 at their East Complex, where they're the stadium, field number 1. Got the press box and everything, and lots of bleachers. So hopefully, like a lot of our families and alumni will be out there. But yeah, game 1 Tuesday, game 2 Wednesday, game 3 Thursday, and then Friday are the if necessary games. Okay. I guess we would go probably game 4 at about noon or 1 on Friday, and then game 5, if necessary, would immediately follow that. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the real highlights of it, and where we hope to see a lot of people out there. We purposely have moved those back to a either 6 or 6:30. We get that first pitch off right around in that time. Past years, before last year, we always just did it at practice time. But we really want to see a lot of people be able to come out and watch and kind of see the progress that we've made over the fall. So we've pushed those times back, moved over to Johnson County 3 and 2 just to make it more of something more special for the spectators and hopefully get a lot of people out there.
I think this is my own fault, really, that we haven't really given this the importance, the credence that it deserves, because, I mean, to be honest with you, my work comes mostly with games. And so, I hang out with you guys a lot in February and March, and then I let you guys as coaches kind of do whatever in practice. I don't really pay attention to practice. But this is not just a practice. This is a really important moment for this program, and we're trying to turn it into it is an annual tradition, but we're trying to make it a big-time event that is meaningful to the players, to the coaches, and to the families and fans. Like, this is not just a practice, like you said. Like, these are not just intra-squad scrimmages. We're trying to turn this into a legitimate operation that is an annual event.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like you think of like your football spring game or whatever. And I mean, honestly, Tim, we're really proud of the team that we've put together this year. And so we are excited. I mean, all those new players, we're excited to see them play games and everything. But I'm really excited for some of our alumni to come out and see and get excited along with us and see what's on the field. It's always been in the past, Coach Cronk would always do this, and a lot of the alumni would turn out for him, as they always did. But some years you're like, oh gosh, I hope they don't, I hope we show well in front of them.
Sure.
And I'm not really worried about that this year. I think they'll be pretty excited when they see the product that we think we're going to be able to put on the field.
And speaking of Coach Cronk, it's not all baseball for you right now. There's another sport that involves hitting a ball a long ways that you are working closely with for another event that is coming up in just a couple of days. What can you tell us about the golf tournament that you're putting together?
So on a week from today, actually out at Loch Lloyd, the Darryl Cronk Dash Foundation will be doing their first annual golf tournament to raise funds for the foundation. The foundation, again, is something that it was started mostly by Kristen Spiller. Shortly after we lost Coach Cronk, kind of in the vein of his personality or his character, the foundation exists to give underprivileged kids free baseball instruction, and finding facilities and finding instructors and all that kind of stuff is not free, obviously. So we have to do a few fundraising events every year, and we've been fortunate enough to be able to do our golf tournament out at Loch Lloyd next week. We've had a pretty good turnout of sponsors and players. We do still have room for a few teams or sponsorships. If you just go to DC-Foundation, DCDASH Foundation.com, you can sign up there. I mean, I think anybody around Avila that knows me knows it goes without saying how much I love the man himself. But the endeavor of the foundation is certainly worthy as well. It's something near and dear to my heart, and baseball's not a cheap game anymore.
No.
And there's a lot of kids that don't have the opportunity to play because they can't keep up with the private lessons and stuff. He was known for always giving kids free lessons, or, he did it for my kid. And so there's no better way to carry on his tradition and what he was all about than this. So, like I said, it's a great cause for an absolutely great human being. I would encourage people to go to the website. There's really small donation or sponsorships available. Anything that they can do to help. I'm excited to get some of the Avila baseball players out there to volunteer at the event. We got a lot of former Avila baseball players playing in it.
Nice.
If you want to come see Sean Sumi hit a golf ball, then you got to get out there, because I know he's going to be playing too. So it should be a really good time for a really great cause.
That's a marquee event. You have done an incredible job carrying on his legacy, both with the team and with this foundation and other things, but also starting your own legacy with the Avila baseball program as well. You've done a tremendous amount for this team and for our department. We are glad to have you, not just in his vein, but in your own. So thank you.
I appreciate it. That means a lot to me, Tim. One thing before I go that I want to make sure I mention is in line with our Fall World Series, we have a selection show.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, I don't know who's on what team, and most of the players do not. And I think there's 4 captains that know what the rosters are, and we're going to live stream a selection show on Thursday night at 7:30. We'd love to have people watch. We'll have some pre-selection breakdown and a little bit of analysis after they're done. I think it'd be about a 30-40 minute broadcast.
Sounds
is kind of
about right.
what we're thinking, right? If you want to drop by and watch that online, we're looking forward to getting that out there. I think it'll be a really cool event for the guys. If you kind of want to get a primer for what you'd be in for if you came out next week, that'd be great too.
So that's what's coming up first. This Thursday, October 19th, 7:30 will be our Fall World Series draft selection show. We're still working out some of the details, but you'll be able to watch that live right here on the Avila Sports Network. Further details to come, but that is scheduled for this Thursday, October 19th, ahead of the start of the Fall World Series next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, guaranteed. Friday, if necessary. We might have some live coverage of those games as well, shooting for maybe that Thursday if things work out. We'll see, kind of TBD based on availability and equipment that we have, but we're going to be out there if we can. So that's next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and potentially Friday, the Fall World Series. And on Monday, a week from today, the first annual Dash Foundation Golf Tournament. A lot coming up for Avila Baseball and all the people that make it happen. Here's the guy who makes all of it happen, head coach Matt Carpenter. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Tim. I appreciate you.
Thanks for everything that you do, and good luck with everything over the next couple of weeks. It'll be busy for you. We'll be right
Tim.
back on Eye on the Eagles. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Eye on the Eagles. We're live from Tanner's at Redbridge. Sports Information Director Tim Hackett now joined by head men's soccer coach Robert Kelly. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
And congratulations on the win this weekend. It was a long time coming, I guess, but a much-needed win for your team. Got to feel good.
Yeah, it does. It's been a rough last 6-7 games, but we finally found a way to fight through some adversity and squeak out a win. So
not an easy win. So it seemed like Bethany, from what I was able to gather from the game, they're the last place team in the conference right now, but they didn't necessarily play like it. They seemed like they were playing motivated, but it was good to see kind of a response in kind from your team in the face of that type of challenge.
Yeah, Bethany plays kind of carefree, like they're the underdogs, so they have nothing to lose. They go out and they play their game. It was fun to see kind of them expose us on the counterattacks, which we haven't had happen as often this year. But they're not as in a rough spot as their record shows.
Really? So they are better than that, you think? They got some pieces. I mean, I like their goalkeeper last year. It's hard to look good as a goalkeeper on a losing team, so his stats aren't great this year. But I thought he played well last year as a freshman. There's a couple of guys back from the last game of the season that we had at the Z last year. It doesn't appear to be a bad team, but it's just been kind of on the wrong side of it all year, it feels like.
Yeah, for sure.
But you guys were able to, regardless of that, take advantage of it in what seems like a real back-and-forth game. Avila scores, Bethany scores to tie, you score to go ahead, Bethany scores to tie, you score to go ahead, and then Bethany surges a little bit at the end. They had a couple of chances in the final minute or 2 minutes of regulation to try to tie it again, but the team did more than enough to kind of hold that wall and make sure that it never happened.
Yeah, it was good to see from the boys to finish out the game strong, especially on a defensive note, something that we've struggled with in the past. So
yeah, what do you think? What was kind of a big difference for the team compared to any of the last half dozen games or so where you've mentioned before that the team struggled to finish off, you struggled to put in a full 90 minutes, things like that? Do you feel like you were able to do that, first of all, and if so, why?
I definitely think we put together a good 90 minutes. Everything that we did was as a unit and together, which was something that we had been missing the last few games, especially defensively. So, getting that going was really good.
How about 3 different goal scorers as well, including TJ, who's had a resurgent offensive season. He's a holding midfielder. He's not necessarily the person to contribute offensively. He doesn't have to be, but this season he has been one of the top contributors offensively, which is, just awesome to see.
Yeah, we've been able to kind of let TJ have more freedom in the midfield with some of the guys that we have this year, so he's able to get more into the offense and create some more opportunities for us.
John Fager back into the lineup after his injury scare the previous game against Ottawa. If you missed that game, he ran into a Braves player, or Braves player ran into him. The tail end of the first half, left the game due to an injury, not able to play the second half, but back out there on Saturday against Bethany and appears to be good to go.
Yeah, he's all good. Just got to keep the stitches covered that he ended up having to get, but other than that, he's all good. So
no saves with the head is what we're talking about. Just keep the hands up if at all possible, right?
Yes.
Protect the important parts.
Yep.
Well, officially in the stretch run now, because you guys have one of the later buys in the conference schedule, which hasn't always been the case. Sometimes we've had early buys in league play, which always feels weird to me. But you're on your bye week, or at least bye half week coming up. No game on Wednesday. First of all, are you looking forward to that? And what are you guys planning to do, even though you don't actually have a game to play, going into the stretch run, the final 3 games?
Yeah, so we get to kind of focus on the things that we haven't been able to do well over the past couple games. We get a little bit more time to work on things and hone in on those areas, and move forward from there. So
I was talking with some of your assistants before one of the last games, and they were saying that this is an opportunity to experiment a little bit, because you don't have to worry about throwing something into a game immediately. You have a few days to. I feel as if we hear this in the media and as fans about this sport, sure, at the professional level, but I think at all levels of soccer, just the idea of the training ground being so important for building a team, practice obviously generating positive momentum and progress for the future. Is that true at this level of soccer as well? Is there really a lot that you can do as a coaching staff on the training ground, if you will, when you're not actually playing?
Yeah, for sure. We can work on whether it be our defensive organization, what it looks like, or our offensive combination play, all sorts of things. We can break the guys up into groups, offense, defense, take them and go do their own thing so that we get some more individualized training with them.
So there are specific things that you can do regardless of if you have a game coming up or not, but there are specific things that are, I mean, this sounds like such an obvious question. There are things that you work on in practice that you're looking to put into a game. Obviously, I get that. But is there any benefit to having a slightly extended time off? Does that give you more time to implement anything specifically rather than, all right, we've got 2 days to turn around before we play another game?
Yeah, it's hard when you're playing a game 2 days apart to really get in a groove of trying things out. So, like, if we're working on our attacking patterns, we only have really a day and a half to do it, and we can't push them too hard because we have that game coming up, So this gives us a little more ability to push them a little harder and go over things for a longer period of time.
We are officially in the stretch run. Like I said, the final 3 games of the regular season, hard to believe. Coming up on Saturday is our final home game of the regular season, also hard to believe. So that's Tabor up next. There are no team left is Bethany. Bethany's the last place team in the conference, like we said. Somebody's got to be last place, but everybody else on the schedule is a little bit better on paper than Bethany is. But regardless of that, Coach, I mean, we're in a spot right now where Avila is still in the playoff race in the KCAC men's soccer standings. Hopes are slim, I guess, mathematically, but they're alive. And at this point in the year, mid-October, it's not something that's not a conversation that we've had before. So I think for me that is exciting, and I'm hoping that's the same way for you and the guys as well, just to be in this mix.
Yeah, for sure. It's nice to be in games more often, and I think with the schedule we have left, I know we got Friends and Bethel. I know they're doing well right now, but I mean, this conference has shown any given day. So
we keep seeing that. I mean, I can't point to an immediate example right now, but I mean, Sterling, they just lost to Kansas Wesleyan. Sterling's kind of been my barometer team, I think, after what we saw the game against Avila. They're kind of like, okay, I'm watching to see what they do kind of relative to the rest of the pack, and they just turn up and give up 5 to Kansas Wesleyan the other day. So, yeah, I mean, and obviously KW is a very good team this year as well, so it's not a bad loss, but I'm just saying that is just an intriguing result in the grand scheme of things. I watched the end of the Kansas Wesleyan Oklahoma Wesleyan game, and they both finished 1-0, men's and women's. So Oakwood won them both, of course, but it was not easy either way, it feels like. So the conference appears to be wide open, and you guys are competing on the balance just about every game, which is awesome, and it's been really fun to see.
Yeah, it's been nice. We're just hoping that we can push through after getting this win, put us on the right path for the rest of the season.
How good does that feel after losing a couple of games in a row? And I know a lot of them have been close. There have been some good efforts in there. If you'll allow me to say, it sounds a little bit patronizing, I know, but it's been good from the team, even with a loss or with a draw. But you finally do get that win, move to 3 wins on the season that matches last year's total, which is an impressive bar to hit, I think.
Yeah, it's nice to get back to where we were at last season, and hopefully that we can push beyond that moving forward.
Yeah, 3 more games left to do it. Not easy opponents, but still plenty of opportunities for Avila men's soccer to continue to grow, which is something that this team has done just about every year over the last few years, I feel. First opportunity is against Tabor at the Z. Final home game of the season this Saturday. The team's got Wednesday off, and then both teams return to the Z for the final time in the regular season this Saturday. The women kick off the doubleheader at noon, and the men will follow at 2:30. That's Avila against Tabor this Saturday. And as always, you can watch all the action live right here on the Avila Sports Network. Coach Kelly, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And congratulations on picking up another conference victory. Well earned. Good job.
Thank you.
We'll see you. We will see them in action on Saturday. We'll be right back with Coach Katie LaForge on Eye on the Eagles. Welcome back to this episode of Eye on the Eagles. We're live at Tanner's at Redbridge. I'm Tim Hackett, now joined for our final guest of the afternoon with head women's soccer coach Katie LaForge. Thanks for being here, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Solid week for you guys. 1 win and 1 draw against solid competition. But let's start with the first game of the week, Ottawa. Meaningful game for you for a lot of reasons. It's been a really competitive matchup the last couple of years, especially now the last 2 with your friend Candace Fabry as the head coach over there now. It was obvious for me from the get-go, and we kind of knew this going in, I think, but once the game kicked off, it was obvious that it was going to be a close game, and can't get any closer than it was.
This is true. It was, for the most part, it was the probably best overall game that we had put together in a couple of weeks. And in terms of that, we kind of were measuring that on our togetherness is what we have, that's our coined phrase at the moment is, are we all on the same page is what people would also call it. Are we making the right runs in the right moments, recognizing when to press, when to drop. Everything was just more done in groups, subgroups. As a whole, just looked more like a team. And even when we made subs, it did not drop the level. It was still, of a good cohesiveness and movement and all that stuff. So we were happy with that. Obviously not happy to not get on the scoreboard, but to still maintain the shutout is huge, not only for our back line, but goalkeeper. And then, the draw in and of itself is a happy medium when you are playing your co-coach in the summer and all that stuff. So we didn't lose all the points that day, so that was good. It would have been very disappointing to play like that and then be on the negative side of the result. So was it a fair result? I think it remains, it's up to whoever's watching. But I think overall we played good enough to win. We just didn't.
I think that's fair enough. I was trying to determine during the game myself. I was up there for the broadcast, and again, scoreless draw at the end of it. I don't know if I realize not all draws are created equal, but I don't know if a coach and a team is ever thrilled about a draw unless you're end up tying a team that you're expected to lose to by 5. But I'm not sure if either team was walking away from that game feeling extremely happy with themselves and with the game, but I also thought that both teams played pretty well, and you're going to walk away from that thinking, okay, like we did what we came here to do, just weren't able to win, which is kind of just the tough draw, if you will, about this sport. You can play well and think that you might win, and you don't win, but you still don't lose, and it's not that bad of a result. All of that is to say, I mean, it isn't a bad result for you guys.
No, especially losing to them last year in the fashion that it did. And then coming off of the K-Dub game, it was, again, just in lots of different categories, a much better performance. So the score lines, that's the blessing and the curse of this sport. It can be very unfair and cruel. Cruel is what they say, right? So, again, I felt like we had a lot of chances, maybe a little bit more possession. Obviously, Ottawa had a lot of good moments, but conversely, in the K-Dub game, we played good enough to win, and we're on the wrong side of the result, right? And then, played good enough to win this game, and then, so maybe it was because of that K-Dub game before that it has set us up to not be too disappointed with the 0-0. But at this point in the season, though, I think both, and I don't want to speak for Ottawa necessarily, but I think both of us probably went in saying this could go either way.
That's how I felt.
And we know that, likely, if all things line up properly, both teams will be in the top 8. We'll make it to playoffs. And how does this tie versus a loss and someone going away with 3 points? In this particular scenario, this late in the season, I think a semi-sigh of relief happened as far as us both walking away with a point. Obviously, I always want to win. That is never the question. But I think, again, like you said, it was a bit of a relief, and to also allow the girls, the players, a bit of a reward for their work and their ability to turn it around after the unfortunate result against K-Dub, and then, go on the weekend. The only thing you could say, though, is at home, you'd like to win that game.
Sure.
just being at home in general, not having to travel or whatnot. But we tend to have a little bit better luck on the road.
It seemed that way.
Yeah. I've always had a theory on it with, the not having lights that we play in the afternoon, and a lot of them either come straight out of the classroom and go in and all that sort of stuff. So I think it does make a difference, though. Sometimes, mentally, like, are we prepared? Are we ready? Did they take a test that day? Did they sleep well? Did they take a test the day before? Stressors, right? Stressors and performances. But anyway, that's for we'll do it.
It's big picture. Yeah,
it is big picture. Maybe 10 years. A 10-year study
10-year
at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Could give us some answers, but yeah. So, but yeah, we're happy overall with the week.
Yeah.
So
we move into a road game, and it ends up being a road win, kind of like you were talking about, against Bethany, which had just picked up its first win of the season the game day prior on Wednesday. So coming in on a relative hot stretch, they are a bottom place team in the conference. Somebody's got to be there, and ultimately it's a 2-1 win for you guys against that team. How do you feel that game went? And you said earlier, to use your words earlier, the scoreline against Ottawa doesn't necessarily reflect how you felt your team performed. 2-1 result against Bethany. Safe to say you feel the same way there. Yes,
I think that if you were to just look at the score, you would probably be like, whoa, that was probably a tight game. And for those that know soccer, yes, it was tight at the end because when you allow teams to stay close like that, I mean, they, last-ditch efforts, Hail Marys is what you call it in other sports. People go for it, right? And it did turn out that way. But for 95% of the game, I did not feel at any point like we were out of control of the result, if that makes sense. Again, good performances by people, especially off the bench. I want to give a special shout-out to senior Aubrey Channing, because she just continues to put in the work. Great example of how to do that, even if you're not getting those nods to a start. But yeah, her efficiency, right? If you look at her total minutes, and now she's got, is this her second
2 goals? Yep.
Yeah. So tied with a bunch of other people who have more minutes.
No doubt.
So that's the epitome of a super sub. And on top of that, she's a senior, so she comes at it with maturity and humility, and so she was a bright light in that game, among with some other individual performances. But again, a testament to how we were able to turn around after K-Dub, play well as a team against Ottawa, play well as a team again, and then finally put 2 in the back of the net, because we have been scoreless for 1, 2, 3. Was it 3 games?
Yeah.
Before that?
Because there was a 1-0 win over York in there, and then everything else was
we were shut out.
Correct.
So, and I think we had started to feel that.
Really.
And so, as a group, we have been solely focused on our offensive prowess. I think we finally have a bit of a recipe right in our back line in our holding midfielder. And so the chemistry and comfort level is starting to be there, and it looks more cohesive. And then now we're, again, trying to set up our offense, because we can score goals. It's proven, and by multiple people can score goals. However, can we do it consistently? Yeah. So it's, whenever somebody writes that book, just let me know, and I'll read it. I'll buy it.
You're available to be quoted, is what you're saying. There's still some chapters to write in this book of this season, because we're officially in the home stretch. You're off this Wednesday, late season bye, which is different from how it's normally been. Well, there was one year where you read the bye literally on the last game day.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
That was not fun on a lot of different ways, but less said about that, the better.
Yep.
So bye week, if you will, coming up this Wednesday. And then the home stretch, final 3 games of the regular season, starting off against Tabor this Saturday. Another game, for me, on paper, like Ottawa. You two guys are both dead even in the conference standings. Tabor's a different team from Ottawa, but in terms of, Friends is coming up. They're ahead in the standings. Bethel's after that. They're below you in the standings, but Tabor is right there. It's basically dead even right now. So that means that, for me, this game on Saturday will do a lot for both teams, big picture down the stretch.
Yeah. For sure. Tabor's always a tough opponent. They have a really strong culture, and I think it's a testament to their coach, Ian. He has a very classy way of going about things, and they just are always a tough group. They have some standouts, but, man, they're organized, they're disciplined. So they they have the ability to score goals, and they've proven that this season, and they fight back even when they're down, and you literally cannot count them out. So fortunately, right, they're coming here. Love Hillsborough, but it's always windy. And I watched the St. Mary game on Saturday, and it was windy.
Very true.
Those corner flags are very telling. But so yeah, it's but obviously with Senior Day, having it be a little bit special, even more special than normal. But again, a tough opponent. So the plan is to win. We need it. Like you said, last 3 games, every single point counts. So getting us to being in, statistically, if we win out, right, I've looked at it in those terms without obviously taking into consideration anybody else's performances, but, you could finish 3rd or 4th.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you are anywhere, and that also includes out, and not making the top 8.
Right.
So, and especially with the addition of Evangel, that makes that top 8 even more of a, I guess, lucrative position to be in. So, I am accustomed to making the top 8. So, that's the plan, like I said. So, but we can only control what we can control.
Sure.
And that's what we keep telling the girls is no matter what anybody else is doing, the results, because the results have been very interesting.
No doubt.
Every day every game day, I suppose, is like, okay, let's, there are no guaranteed anythings, right? Tabor and St. Mary tied this past weekend. So, and then, Evangel's getting some really good results.
Yeah.
And then, the ties with Oklahoma. It's just, it's been madness. So, but again, talking about the Bethany game, they came off their first win. So that was another piece of the puzzle to battle against as far as,
was a surprising result relatively. They hadn't won a game.
Absolutely.
So, it's no disrespect intended. They had not won a game, so a win was a surprising result in that case. And coming on a hot stretch, and they played okay, all things considered, trying to make that 2 wins in a row.
Absolutely, they did. They didn't give up, that's for sure. And it was a good game in general. But, yeah, hoping to kind of keep this momentum, hoping this bye week doesn't throw anybody off. Honestly, It probably relaxes everyone. I talked about the stressors. It's just that time of year, y'all. October's, lots of grades coming in, all that sort of stuff, lots of tests being taken. So, I mean, it's not talked about enough as far as that goes. That affects performance for sure. It affects their sleep. How are they eating? How are they hydrating? And then, to go and, this month we've had 90 degrees. We've had, this weekend we had, it was 45, 50 degrees, and then probably colder with the wind. And, so there's a lot of factors. So hopefully this is a good preparation to being really solid on Saturday and hopefully getting that result that we need.
You are more on top of the standings and how the conference picture looks, I feel, than many, and that's obviously because you and I have conversations about this every year because we talked about how even the conference is in women's soccer and in every fall sport. It feels even more true this year, but in reality, this is how it's been the last few years. I mean, Oklahoma Wesleyan's number 1, lock it in, and then, you sometimes have a 2 or 3. This year, Friends is up there, whatever, Kansas Wesleyan's up there, but there's a not a big gap at all between 2 and 10 right now, points-wise. So, Oklahoma Wesleyan is 1, even with the 2 draws, but they're going to be 1. And then other than that, it's like it is completely wide
Genuinely
open.
Up for grabs.
It is. It's fun for me, even as I'm not a neutral party. We all know that, but as a relatively neutral party, I'm not on the team. Is it fun or is it stressful as a coach to be in a situation, a climate conference-wide like this where it is so wide open? Everything matters.
I love it. I think it's hard to find conferences like ours. I think we've talked about that in the KCAC in general, right? Not only do we have, I think it's evened out this year in an interesting way. So, I think that just means, good coaches are stepping into these roles. We've had some changes over the years, but, overall just grabbing the talent and using it properly is, I think, really the key. I love it as a coach. I think it makes my job far more interesting that I don't I cannot, well, if I want to prepare my team properly, I cannot just walk into a game day. Can't just assume that we're going to win, because literally my staff and I joke around. It's like any given day. And I know that that's like a cliche, but this year it's been probably the truest motto of this season. So, as a coach, and I hope all of the coaches feel this way in a sense, because I've been on the negative receiving end of these tight games, stuff before.
Absolutely.
And get, held out by, one game made the difference, right? And that's essentially what we're down to. And it's a lot of the teams that are in this are actually playing each other.
Sure.
So kind of those ones that are, we'll say they're guaranteed, but they're not really. But a lot of those are kind of already done and dusted. And so I think it also creates for the ones that have been on the negative receiving end, and that, there's somebody that's got to be at the bottom. You can absolutely steal a team and squish a team out of the playoffs and take that as some pride. I know that would be my mentality if I was in that particular position. So feel blessed to not be there. But I also feel like this team has more to give. And if they set their minds in the proper place, they're a very, very dangerous team to play against. And could go quite far.
Yeah.
But I got to take care of business in these last 2 weeks.
What's cool about having the bye now rather than at the literal last game day of the season like it was 2 seasons ago, I think was when it happened.
Yeah.
And we all know what happened at the end of that season as well. But what's cool about this right now is that for me, the dust is going to kind of settle a little bit, because just there hardly any teams will have a bye after this.
Correct.
So we will now really be able to go play by play, game by game, the rest of the way. And all of these results, like you said, have been crazy, but that means that all of the results will be even more impactful for literally everybody, even Oklahoma Wesleyan at the top and even Bethany at the bottom. It's still really important for everybody here on in, because there's no place that is locked up. And then obviously that bubble around 6, 7, 8 versus 9 and 10 is where it matters the most in this conference.
Indeed.
But I have absolutely no idea how any of those spots are going to go with 3 games left for you guys.
Yeah.
And for me, that's really exciting.
Yeah, it is going to be exciting. So come watch us.
Yeah. Next opportunity and final opportunity to do that at home this season. Coming up on Saturday will be Senior Day. Avila Women's Soccer against Tabor, a critical matchup between 2 teams that are dead even in the standings. And then after that, it is Bethel and Friends to finish the season for Avila as they try to get back into the KCAC tournament, a place that they have been a lot over the last couple of years. So Saturday against Tabor, final scheduled home game of the season. The women kick off at noon. The men will conclude the doubleheader at 2:30. We'll have Senior Day in there somewhere as well. Details to be announced, and we'll have all that coverage for you live on the Avila Sports Network. Coach LaForge, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Tim.
That is head women's soccer coach Katie LaForge. I've been Tim Hackett. This has been Eye on the Eagles. Thank you, as always, to Tanners at Redbridge for hosting us. We will see you next week, same time, same channel, every Monday at 11:30, live on the Avila Sports Network and streaming afterwards on YouTube. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Until then, so long.